It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here.
With Barnet Bain.
Good moment.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
You beat me to it. Good moment. It's no less of a good moment, even though you beat me to the moment.
Yeah.
But there's only the moment,
I was
right?
actually working to share the moment with you.
No, there only is the moment, isn't there?
That's
There's
right.
only the all unfolding, all expansive, timeless time.
So what do you want to talk about in this moment?
Let's just dive into the moment. We'll find the stillness. It'll be great for radio.
Stillness is not good for radio.
It's not good for radio, but yeah, it's right now. Right now, there's a whole bunch of people in cars churning to a channel with some music on it or something.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about
Pause.
that. Let's talk a little
pause.
bit. Let's talk a little bit about
The
that.
pause.
The pause.
Yeah. It's a great topic.
This pregnant stillness that holds the boundary without any structure, that holds the boundary of all creativity and all possibility and everything yet unimagined.
Yeah, the challenge in my life is to
Figure it out.
consciously create moments of pause, because it is so easy in my conditioning and in the world that I see around me to get frenetic and to find myself, just on the hamster wheel, running. And when I lose track of the pause, I don't make the best decisions. There's a lack of ease in my life, which is required for me to be creative.
Why do you think it is? Why do we think it is that we make less effective decisions when we are captivated by the running chatter of our minds?
So the reactive mind is going to come up with the first four options. It's going to come up with a very narrow set of
Has a very short menu.
choice
It's like
points.
going to a Chinese restaurant.
It is. Well, it depends
One
which Chinese restaurant. There's a lot of items.
Well, I only have one in my neighborhood.
That's right.
And, you get 4 from column A, 3 from column B.
Right. There you go.
And on column B, 2 of the things are the same thing with different sauce.
That's right.
And that is very much the way our egoic mind works. It's pretty much the same thing with different sauce.
Who would you invite for dinner today?
Oh, I have the most
Delicious.
I have the most fantastic friend here for dinner.
That's
Are
good.
you kidding? Are you kidding? I would rather be with her, actually.
Uh-huh.
She lives in Toronto, and her mom cooks Italian food, so I'd rather be having meatballs there, but I'm just putting it out there, Sonia. I'm just putting it out. So today we are so happy on Cutting Edge Consciousness to welcome Sonia Ricotti, who many of our listeners are already familiar with her #1 best-selling book, Unsinkable: How to Bounce Back Quickly When Life Knocks You Down.
I'm sure there's a pause involved in that.
There is a pause
We'll get
involved.
into it.
We're going to get totally
yeah.
into it. You're jumping ahead. Stay in the moment, will you? So Sonia appears regularly on national media, and you've seen her on TV, on the radio, on Cutting Edge Consciousness now, and in magazines. She's the CEO and president of Lead Out Loud, which is a leading edge transformational company that I am personally very, very enthusiastic about and a big supporter of, and proud to say that I have been a collaborator and co-presenter with Sonia and some of that stuff.
Welcome to the show, Sonia.
Thank goodness you're here, even though there's no meatballs. But
next time when you're in town, you'll get the meatballs.
I will be there. You don't even have to ask me once.
And when you come here, you can come to the Chinese restaurant in Barnett's neighborhood with all 4 choices under each column.
Yeah, it's the egoic menu.
I can't wait.
It's the egoic menu. So, well, thank you for being here. And
let's talk pause.
Let's talk pause.
I love that conversation, by the way, that you were having.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, remembering to pause, to just take a moment and make a choice versus, choose unconsciously from the short menu.
Right.
Critical,
it's interesting because I found that what happens is when you don't take the pause and you're in that frenetic, like crazy pace, the Chinese menu, what happens is that you're not able to receive the messages from source. And so you're coming completely from the mind and making decisions and trying to figure things out from the mind, and you're generating some really bad negative energy around that. So when you take that pause, it really helps you reconnect to source. And, you know, what's amazing is that I just did this morning. We're in the middle of a really big launch right now, and so many things were going on, and I felt that whole Chinese menu thing happening. And I just realized whenever I say these words, it calms me down. Ease and flow. Ease and flow.
Okay, everyone here in the studio. Spence, you too?
Yeah,
Ease
really.
and flow.
Our producer.
Our producer is a little stressed this morning because somebody messed with his board over the weekend. Spence,
no.
ease and flow. Say that.
Be still.
Ease and flow.
Even flow.
You have a choice in life. You have a choice of either being stressed out, like we're all walking down this path. And as we're walking down this path, you have a choice. Things are going to be thrown in front of you, in your path, in front of you. You're going to be walking over them. You're going to be continuing walking forward. The big question is, are you going to be going down that path kicking and screaming, or are you going to be going down that path in a place of peace, ease and flow? No matter what, whatever's happening is still happening. The difference is once you get into that pause state, then you'll be able to flow down that path a lot easier and quicker, and you'll be able to get the answers and solutions to your problems because your mind is clear. You're not in that fog.
Yeah, the language from my perspective is alignment. It's kind of a coming into alignment. And I love what you were saying about source, because there is this intelligence that is me and is not me, is much bigger than me, flows through me perhaps and hovers around me at all times, that when I'm aware of it, when I have the humility to pause, to, unhook from my little monkey mind that wants to, as Barnet was sort of saying, run ahead and control everything and order and organize everything into these little boxes, these 4 categories that make it all play out the exact same way it did yesterday, then this whole array of possibilities begins to open up and life becomes magical, And so from my perspective, again, the word is sort of alignment. Am I coming back into alignment which makes me more trustworthy to open up, and then more and more can be present to me. I can be present to more and more possibility.
Yeah, I agree. And what's amazing is sometimes it's amazing how we get into our situations and daily lives, and we make these things so significant in our lives. And as soon as you start gaining perspective, and take that pause, then and get to that ease and flow again, you kind of laugh. And you go, I cannot believe I'm stressing out over this. Now, we're in the middle of a big launch, and it's really huge, and I get that. But in the end, it's just a launch, right? Like, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it it's just a launch. So, if some pop-up box is not working on my page, it's not a big deal. We'll figure it out. Ease and flow. Ease and flow.
Ease and flow. So we're talking about pause, people, and as I'm listening to you both, I'm more deeply understanding that what we're pausing is we're putting in the clutch on the logic and reasoning game, the figuring, strategizing, outthinking life game. There's a place for thinking, but we really lost a balanced relationship with it, because when we put the clutch in on the thinking and stop trying to figure everything, that's when answers and insights and opportunities and possibilities and realizations, relationships, moods and feelings, that's when they arrive. They don't ever, none of those things actually arrive through our cognitive intelligences. They actually arrive as gifts of inspiration in spirit. They arrive not in our heads, but in our bodies. Right. And then our heads are designed to refine them and to do a dance with them, a dance of manifestation. But we don't ever generate anything from inside our ability to do calculus.
Yeah, what we generate is formulaic. It's sticking.
We generate struggle.
Yeah. And so to move into a space, I love the body too, that the body is where wisdom resides. There's no wisdom in the head. It's this combination.
Well, there's knowledge.
There might be, but the wisdom, the stuff that is bigger than us, what I was speaking to before, and the ability to source and access information that, that you might not be able to, in your cognitive capacity, put into little boxes and organize and fit into a structure that's already set. You know what I mean? So at first, this is disorganizing for those of us who have spent a lot of time head tripping, running around in our heads.
Well, this is Sonia's work. This is really
that's why we're talking to her.
What a coincidence!
See that?
Yeah, this is your work. You have been training and modeling this kind of relationship between wisdom and knowledge for people for a long time.
Yes, and what's the number one theme that I've been really focused a lot on in the last few years with my teachings is really around the mind and understanding that we are the cause of our own suffering. And anytime we're in a place of suffering, it truly is generated from a mind space, from your thoughts, and regardless of what's going on, because a lot of people may argue and go, well, that's because you don't know what my husband just did, or you don't know what it feels like to lose your home, or you don't know what it feels like to have health issues. And actually I do, by the way, because, all those things have happened to me. I've lost my home, 6-figure debt, all that kind of stuff in the past, and was able to turn it around really quickly, specifically focusing on elevating my vibration and refocusing my mind so I can be able to walk down that path in a very peaceful, clear, with pure clarity, and really connected to Source to be able to find all those open doors and opportunities that allow me to live my biggest life. And for me, my biggest life is not only for myself in my little world, but being able to make a difference around the planet teaching this work.
I love
and
it.
so it was really important for me to go through everything I went through so I can connect with others. But the mind is such a powerful tool that can either A, bring you a lot of suffering, or B, bring you a lot of peace and ease and even health. Your mind can make you sick.
What you ordered wasn't on the menu. No, because what you're talking about is really important. The suffering is those 4 choices. So my house is in foreclosure, whatever the stressor is, and the interpretation boils down to 4 choices, or 2 choices, or 1 choice. I mean, there's this default setting that operates, and there's a lack of creativity. There's a lack of imagination. There are no other ways to hold that and to interpret it. And what you're saying is, in whatever interpretation you were able to come up with that was constructive, that took you on a ride, oh, well, I guess I won't be living here. I'll be going this other direction, and we'll see what that unfolds. That is a really creative way to respond to something. But again, most folks have 4 choices. It's a limited menu.
Exactly. And what's amazing is that, you do have a choice. And yeah, that thing is happening. But you have a choice on that interpretation that you're talking about. And actually, you can even take it further and not interpret it as anything. It's just a fact. A, I'm $10,000 in debt. B, I'm going to lose my home. Now, you can throw in all kinds of interpretations around that. You could throw in all your worry and what's going to happen in the future, taking yourself out of that pause and into thought again, into the future. There's so many things you can do, and most of us do, right? But at the same time, the truth is, as soon as you're able to accept things, I remember this woman I was following a couple of years ago. She said these words that just made it so clear. You cannot change it until you accept it.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you're able to accept what's going on in your life, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, without putting meaning around it, and just say, you know what, it is the way it is. Stop, telling yourself this big story in your head of, why this is all happening and how it shouldn't be happening. The bottom line is, it is happening. And if it shouldn't be happening, then it wouldn't have been happening. So it is happening, and so accept it. And I'm not saying surrender to it, but accept it. And so once you accept it, you're releasing all that negative energy and just saying, you know what, it is the way it is. I'm $10,000 in debt. I'm about to lose my home. It just is the way it is. Now just let it go, move on, and come from a place of ease and flow and get into that space, because that place of pause, because in that place of pause are all your answers. And all of a sudden you'll notice that there's so many opportunities around you that can get you out of that situation, or B, find another solution to whatever's going on.
We have to accept right now
we have
to accept right now that we have a bunch of a string of commercials to run, and so we're going to sell some stuff. And when we finish selling some stuff, we're going to come back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness with Sonia Ricotti. So everybody out there, please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Thank you for staying with us on Cutting Edge Consciousness, the Ease and Flow place
Show.
on
The Ease and Flow Show.
The Ease and Flow Show.
That's us,
Yeah, I
baby.
love that. We're the Ease and Show Flow, or something,
Yeah.
or something.
Don't give Barnett not lines. He'll tweak them.
I'm just saying. So
And we kept saying pause, and you kept thinking of your dog's
my
paws.
dog, yeah, I kept thinking of forepaws, furry and warm. So, Sonia, you were speaking about acceptance, the very, very mature, spiritually mature skill of being able to accept what is going on, what is happening. And then you said only when you accept, when you fully accept circumstances, are you able to release. And I thought to myself, yeah, we recognize what's going on and our resistance to it, and then we accept it, and then we release it. And I thought, in my own experience, it is easier for me to make the jump from accepting to release when I forgive my usually myself, because there's a part of me that says, oh, God, you messed that up, or you did so, if only you'd done it differently, and if, then, when. To take a breath, a pause,
Yeah.
Right.
and then to forgive myself, and sometimes others. I don't always have to forgive the what they do, but it's easier for me to forgive the why. I can understand why people think that they need to take the actions that they may take at my expense. I don't have to, where they're coming from without forgiving necessarily the
So
what.
it sounds like you're talking about kind of an integration process where you can kind of hold it in a particular way that's more constructive than staying gripped in it oughtn't to be this way. Is that accurate?
I don't know, because I am. It's more juicy to me
Yeah.
when I don't put labels on it.
All right.
When it gets sort of all wrangled up into it's an integrated process now.
Right, no,
now
I
it
get it,
feels
I get
like
it.
now it feels like
Yeah.
I'm reading an engineering text.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned forgiveness, because forgiveness is so key in being able to elevate your vibration to a really high level and getting yourself to a state of love, peace, joy, and gratitude, some of the highest level vibration states. And it's hard to be in those states when you're not in a place of forgiveness for someone. And often when something happens, and sometimes you need to forgive yourself, by the way, but when something happens, the easiest, to me anyway, the easiest way for me to forgive someone is to remind myself that hurt people hurt people.
Mm.
And
That's
so,
two, Sonia.
Yeah.
Ease and flow and hurt people hurt people.
Well,
That's
because usually
two
when people-
samplers that I'm going to have framed on my wall.
Yeah, well, the thing is that when somebody hurts you, they're usually coming from a place of pain.
Hurt. Mm-hmm.
That's what's being expressed in the behavior.
And so you get to go behind their minds. Like if I'm upset with someone myself because they did something, then I'm like, okay, obviously if they said something that was not kind, then I sit back and go, obviously they were hurt for them. Especially people that are so close to you, they were hurt. Something inside them, they're generally good people, and then they said something that actually is hurtful. Then obviously hurt people. Just let it go. And always remember when you don't forgive someone, the only person you're hurting is yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just
Because you're maintaining a relationship. I mean, sometimes I hear that, and for the longest time I thought, really? Come on.
I think there's a Buddhist expression that when you're holding resentment, it's like holding a hot rock wanting to throw it at someone, but the whole time
You're burning yourself.
You're the one getting
Yeah.
burned.
Or I heard this one too. I have that one in my first book, The Law of Attraction, Plain and Simple. In my first book, I talk about how not forgiving is like you drinking rat poison and expecting the rat to die.
Mm.
It's good.
That is good. All right, so I'm going to stick with my integration piece, not because
Sonia,
I
why
want
are
it
you
to
thinking
be
in terms of like rats? You know, you just it's like such an odd teaching point from you. Yes, folks. You know, if you're trying to kill a rat, it's like
don't drink the poison. I want to stick with my integration piece because there's one thing that seems important to me, and I don't want it to be brittle, and I don't want it to be at the level of technique. But I do want to say that there's one of the things we've talked about in this show, and it's a tool I work with, is dimensionalizing, where there's parts of me. So there's parts of me that get activated, and those parts of me aren't what I want running the show, but that they get activated. And so there's a part of me, for example, having a hard time accepting, that I lost my house. Or went bankrupt or whatever. I mean, and having been through some of those life experiences, that little part of me surfaces every once in a while. There's a little part of me that wants to compete and compare, and I don't want that part of me running the show. But I recognize that it gets activated. And sometimes I feel like my wanting to accept, which is the larger part of me maybe can accept it, but this little part of me once in a while gets fired up. And my thinking is, how do I want to be with that part of me? How do I acknowledge and allow for it? Because when I do, then in my experience, I see it showing up less in my experience, in my life, reflected back to me. Do you know what I'm talking about right now?
Yeah, I do. I think it's really a question of just becoming aware. That's all it is. So you're just observing your thoughts. You're observing what's coming up for you. And just that act of observing and becoming aware immediately puts you in ease and flow. And you stepped away and outside of your mind. You stepped away from yourself, like outside of your body kind of thing, looking in and going, really? Wow, that's really interesting that you're experiencing this. And you're thinking about this still.
Yeah, that is it. Because
you're moving from being identified with what goes on in your thinking to being in a relationship with it. And it doesn't have to mean anything about you. It's just something that flows through. It moves through like relatives coming to visit, and then they leave.
Yeah, but there's a love of it. There's a compassion of it. Because look, again, if I treat the world as a mirror, which we've said many times, like when something's showing up and I really don't like it, well, that's me. How do I want to own what's showing up so that it doesn't keep showing up?
What if you flip it so it's not reactive? What if you flip it and say, in the way that Sonia is talking about watching it and simply watching it, being mindful of it. And when we're mindful of it, we can notice that we calm down, and we can notice that our world seems a little calmer too.
Definitely. And when I can apply compassion, quick with compassion, quick with forgiveness, quick with understanding, like how quick can I be? Because my first instinct is to, rail against it. My first instinct is to react.
What if you just watch it and then you don't have to?
That's
you don't
what I'm
have
saying.
to pile on all the strategies.
So
right,
look,
and I think that also when you're actually going in and even just becoming aware of it, you stepped outside of it and acknowledge it. And just go, just kind of say, that's interesting that I'm thinking that again, and without making it right, without making it wrong, without blaming yourself or anything, just observing it is a completely different state altogether. Because if you start blaming yourself, or not blaming yourself, but saying, oh my goodness, I'm doing that again. Now your thoughts are coming through again, judging what your thoughts are.
Yeah, we're back to the pause button.
Or you say, I should be loving that. Again, it's your head that's saying that.
Yeah.
So it's still a control thing. You're just watching it. And by the nature of watching it, that is already an elevated resonance vibration. It is, in its nature, compassionate. But when we drop down into a strategy, we are just finding a way to dominate it.
Yeah, or the tools are ways to relate to it, and to hold them rigidly I don't think is a good idea. I'm not prescribing right now. I'm not saying here's the 4-step process. I'm actually bored of all that. That's not interesting to me. But I am noting along the way some of the techniques, strategies, or tools that have had value for me.
Sure.
Right? So
they point us to a new territory,
yes.
And at some point we own that we're in the new territory. We don't need the pointer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I love is this is a conversation Barnet and I had a month or so ago when we were in San Diego, and it's interesting because there are a lot of teachings out there, as the 3 steps, the 4 steps, the 5 steps, and all that, and it's just so cerebral. And a lot of that are my teachings as well, the 3 steps to bouncing back from tough times or whatever it is. And the truth is that I think it's still important to have that for a lot of people who are just starting on the path to be able to integrate and understand and come from the mind to really be able to shift what's going on in their mind. And then once they're at that place where they're in a place where they understand it.
Take them off. Take the training wheels off.
Exactly.
Ride the bike. It's okay. You don't need training wheels anymore.
Now you're without the training wheels. Now let's get to, ease and flow, that space, that pause. And in fact, when you really think about it, because I talk a lot about the fact that you need to reprogram your mind, your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, all those things. And a lot of people are not aware, just simply becoming aware that they are not their thoughts. Just realizing that that is what's causing your suffering, is what story you're telling yourself in that moment.
No! Oh no, I'm not my thoughts. Then what?
Yeah, who am I if I'm not the concept I've been touting around?
That's a mind blower.
What's exciting about that? Mm-hmm. Then you can be whatever you want to be.
Yeah,
well, it's exciting. Yes, it's disorganizing and exciting. So I get the resistance.
And peaceful.
It's ease and flow.
Yeah.
The steps to getting to ease and flow are the qualities of being in ease and flow.
It's a lot of hard work not working so hard.
Yes.
That's good.
Thank you. I went with the hurt people.
Well,
I just want to tag all these together. We'll have our own little dictionary that you can look at.
Ease and flow, hurt people. Actually, I have a quote for you.
Yeah.
Surrender to what is.
Yeah.
Let go of what was.
Yeah.
And have faith in what will be.
I love it.
That's a big sampler, though.
Oh, can we keep going
I can't
with this
needlepoint that onto a small.
Yeah, that's a little
onto a small hanky. I need a bed sheet for that.
I have to share my daughter's grace. When she came back from preschool, she brought us the grace that we still use in our family. We say thank you for the food before us, the friends beside us, and the love between us. Isn't
That's
that
good.
Sweet?
We just go with blessings on your lunch.
Blessings on your lunch. That you can embroider on a pillow.
I'm going to say that when I am at Sonia's mother's house having meatballs and cannolis.
That's all you're going to get are meatballs.
I know.
We're going to have cannelloni.
I know. And pasta
and all that.
Sauce.
You're going to have meatballs.
I'm going to have meatballs.
Where are Barnett's meatballs? We made this huge meal.
So, Sonia, you are doing this launch, and it is formidable. It's going to change a lot of lives. It's going to empower a lot of people. It's going to open so many to more of who they can be. And I want you to share a little bit with our listeners where they can learn more about that right now.
Absolutely. Well, the launch is actually, I'm launching a webinar. It's completely free. It's going to be about...
Good price.
What's that?
Free is good price.
Yes. It's completely free, and it's basically the 3-step formula to bounce back instantly and higher than ever when life knocks you down. Mm-hmm. And it's a webinar where I'm teaching the 3 steps, which is all about reprogramming your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, elevating your vibration to a really high level, to a state of love, peace, joy, and gratitude. And if anyone's interested in actually attending the webinar, you can go to bouncebackwebinar.com.
I think it's brilliant. Look, we need tools to bounce back. For me, it's very important to put my tools down. It is. But, that I have them is very valuable because, look, in the moments when I'm in that refractory period, when my brain isn't thinking very straight or my body's not in the game and whatever, and I recognize I am out of alignment, going back to the alignment word, pushing the pause button is really critical. And having a practice that I can utilize to slow down, contemplate, recenter, ground, whatever, is really helpful. So I support 3 steps. I support whatever it is to get the training wheels on, to get back on the road so that we can live lives of grace and ease.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that sometimes just being able to put it in steps, because it's quite complicated in some ways to actually explain all this stuff at a really deep level. Mm-hmm. And my first thought was, what's the easiest, simplest way to teach this and share this? And that's why I dropped it down to 3 steps.
It's a lot of work not working that hard.
So, folks, friends, listeners, Sonia is a very, very close, intimate friend of this show and a collaborator. And so we urge you to check out this program because there is so much value in it. You will really really be fired up, and it's just
especially if you need to bounce back. If you're feeling like
who
you
doesn't need to be
back.
bounced back?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Let's get
Yeah.
let's get the skills and the tools that we need in the moment that we need them, so we understand there's a greater possibility for us. Absolutely.
Right. And I want to mention also that if anyone wants a quick tips video, and I've got some stuff on my website, so if anyone wants to go to leadoutloud.com, lead like leadership, leadoutloud.com. If you go to the site, you'll get some stuff there as well.
And
if you're going through a tough time.
And all of this will be available on the Cutting Edge Consciousness website with this show.
And the meatballs.
And the meatballs. Sonia, when you're in LA, we want you in studio next time.
You want to what? Sorry?
We want you
In studio.
back in on the show. But
I'm inviting you
I would
back.
love that.
We want
I
you
would love
in.
that.
We love you in studio.
I
Of
want a
course,
second date.
you're welcome. You're welcome on this show at any time. But we would love you in studio.
Yep.
I will be there in January, so there we go. I'm taking
Fantastic.
one.
And
It's a
guess
date.
where we're going afterwards?
Where?
Chinese food.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Sonia. And for those of you listening, we need to take another break. We need to pause. But we will be right back to wrap up after these messages here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome back to the Ease and Flow Show, Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here
Ease and flow.
with Barnet
I love that.
Bain.
What was the other one? Hurt people hurt people.
I liked mine. It's a lot of hard work. Not working so
People
hard.
hurting people.
You don't like mine. It's a lot of hard work. Sometimes not working so hard.
You know, that's not just a fortune in a cookie. That is a loaf of bread.
We're gonna only talk in cliches for the last.
We're only going to talk in fortune cookie snippets.
Oh, that's good.
This is your lucky number.
Kid.
Speaking of Chinese food.
Yeah.
So, Sonia's program, to repeat myself,
The Bounce Back program.
the bounce. It's really great.
Yeah.
It is really great. She shares so much that is so empowering, and she does it so beautifully. So I really recommend it.
It's delicious. Just like
Chinese
the
food.
meatballs.
Chinese food.
Chinese food. What was in the coffee this morning, Barnett?
Not enough.
No, that's exactly right.
It's not enough coffee.
Oh my goodness. So how are things going? Let's check in. We haven't checked in a while. You've got so much on your plate. Things are up for you. We've been doing so much work together
So
besides
much.
just radio stuff. Lots of exciting, sometimes unnerving experiences.
It's all new.
It's all
It's all new. There are so many fabulous things going on, and it is all new.
I feel that way. I feel that way. You know what's funny? My wife and I said, we were talking the other night, and she said, I can't keep up. And I said, I'm going to stop trying. There's just a way. I'm really going to trust that this all doesn't mean to be as managed, as micromanaged, as that part of me, to use that language, because I think it's real, that gets a little overwhelmed and wants to start crunching everything down. And we have decisions to make.
There's no way that our linear thinking can maximize our full potential. There is no possibility.
No way.
So nothing is ever lost. And if you look at your lives, I look at my own life, there are plates that I began to spin 2 months ago, 3 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. All those plates, once set in motion, they keep spinning. Sometimes they wobble on that stick. I have to go back and jiggle a little bit and get that plate spinning again. But there comes a point when all of those, nothing is ever lost.
Yeah.
Every thought and feeling ripples across eternity. And
Yeah.
all of the skills and all of the talents, they all begin to weave together like the lace on your grandmother's couch. And they create something that is so much more than the sum of the parts. A fabric that we could not have imagined, that utilizes all of our skills and all of our energies and all of our desires. It increasingly begins to knit together when we allow it. But if we try to control it, our brain can't, our logic can't hold that.
Yeah.
And so you look at your life and it just seems to like, wow, how did how did that thing skill that I developed all those years ago, now I see its fuller expression. It's just becomes magical.
And it's all of our experiences that are in there too, including the ones where we lost the house or whatever happened. Because look, at the end of the day, that is, we can't look back. Well, every once in a while it's valuable to look back and go, wow, I see how things played out. Like I was so in the moment of, let's say when I was a soap star and I lost my job on Young and the Restless, that seemed so catastrophic. And yet I'm so grateful because there were so many things after that that I wouldn't have done had I been, still being
Drake Belson.
Yeah. And it was so done. I really was done with it, by the way. I didn't need to be on that show any longer. And all the other things. I mean, all the ways. I had a business that fell apart, and afterwards looking back, like, wow, that really wasn't where I needed to be in my life. It was great for all the things I learned from it. So woven in is all these, catastrophes, or what seemed like catastrophes, that were really, this beautiful expression of the closing of a door so another would open. To put another cliche in there.
Yeah, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, thank you. I think can we weave more cliches?
That's so
in?
beautiful.
It's the cliche show. Yeah.
God, that is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. But it's true. There's something in the fortune cookie that's true. So you got to take that little piece of wisdom and go, yeah, that's true. If I can really accept, if I can really allow what's playing out or what wants to unfold and have that connection, that sense that there's something bigger, the connection is source.
You and I, before the show, we were talking on a different subject, and we were talking to the point of how it is that our conditioned head trip, which we are so lost in that we think it is the sum total of our ability, that it represents all of our toolkit and all of our resources, the resources with which we connect with the mystery of all that is. We think it's just all through the head. And as a result, we have lives that are like ships in a bottle. So we thought ourselves into the bottle.
Yeah.
We're not going to think ourselves. It's not through thought and thinking alone.
That's right.
That we will sail that ship out of the bottle.
It doesn't seem to fit through the neck, but we find a way.
Exactly. So there is some other set of awarenesses that we are discovering.
It's going to require a miracle.
Yes, and miracles.
Our head can't process a miracle. We call it an anomaly.
We call it, and we find ways. We say about miracles, they're desperate acts. When you get to the place where you need a miracle, then you're so screwed,
right?
Because that's a desperate wish for a desperate person. When an artist understands that the miraculous, the spontaneous, ecstatic explosion of coincidence, where it all comes together, is the flow state, to quote Sonja, the ease and flow state. That is the sweet spot. Every athlete understands the zone.
Yeah.
Every businessman understands what it is to follow a gut instinct.
Every musician.
The gut instinct is not logical and linear.
No.
It does, then we
push
back on it. We push back on it where we doubt it and we distrust it, and we go back. We sail that ship, which is half out of the bottle. We sail it straight back into the bottle. So this is really a fundamental discovery of an entirely different, you'd speak about dimensions, but it is an entirely different dimension that has nothing to do. There's that other cliche, since we're on the cliche roll today, butterflies and grasshoppers, or butterflies and caterpillars. One has nothing to do with the other. And yet I find myself constantly trying to understand or project or perceive or conceive or imagine through my thinking and doing, and not through the part of me that is more attuned to being an acorn or a wave crashing on the beach or the stillness of a mountain.
Yeah.
That's a totally different experience.
Yeah, you're a butterfly, man. Stop thinking
I'm a butterfly. Speaking of which,
let go of your
we are in the middle of the
days.
monarch
Yes.
the monarch
season,
the migration pattern.
Beautiful.
And they flow like a river.
Unbelievable.
Right over our house. They flow. Yeah. We live on the ocean. So, and
you should get your camera out and take a Starling's version, like the YouTube Starling.
It is literally a river of butterflies. And at night there is a tree that is about eighth of a mile from my house, 2-3 trees. And they nest, or they, I don't know whether they're nesting or they're hanging down like Dracula's, like upside down, like Transylvanian electricians hanging upside down from the ceiling. In the thousands, it's so fabulous. So if the world isn't enchanted, and if that is not my own subconscious speaking to me about the imminence, about ease and flow and the imminence of my own radical transformation, then I'm not playing anymore.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And so attuning to, one of the things that we've talked about is that so often when we see things coming at us and we can own them, it shifts the experience. And that is usually, we talk about that sort of in negative terms. But look, the same is true in positive terms. When we can tap into the beauty around us and put down our struggle sometimes, because that becomes its own addictive patterning of managing the chaos and managing the struggle. And I'm accepting all the time. Push the pause button. Don't accept anything. Go sit with the monarchs are going by. It's not a time to be doing your bills. Stop. Go and
unless you love doing your bills.
Right.
Unless it's fun, inspiring, uplifting. But I hear what you're saying. You're so right.
Even if it is fun, inspiring, uplifting, there are moments in life that invite us to have another experience. And heck, they're there for us to enjoy and breathe in and go on the ride of the miraculous, the unfolding. It's a beautiful thing. And there's all kinds of flow in that show.
There's ease and flow. And there's hustle and flow.
Hustle and flow. Are we back to the dance? All right.
Who made that movie? Was that John Singleton, or who made Hustle and Flow? It was a good movie.
I don't know. I don't know where we're at, to be honest with you. I've lost complete semblance of everything in regards.
You mean of the time, or are you talking about the culture?
No, everything. Yeah. Time is just the microcosm of that larger.
Ever since Jake Belson got written off, you've been sort of out of touch with the zeitgeist. Yeah, you mean Bonanza is not on anymore?
What happened? Last time I tuned in, little Joe was going to get married.
Exactly, I remember. What happened to Rowan and Martin's laughing?
There you go. Hey,
3/4 of our audience is scratching their head and saying, "What?
What happened?
What
to these guys?
What are they even talking about?"
For a minute, I actually understood them. Now I've completely lost track. Spence, where are we, man?
We could.
Don't say we have an eternity, because last time you did that,
it was not eternal.
90 seconds. It was not. You ran out for 3 minutes.
If you have nothing to say, it feels like an eternity. Have you ever been stuck on stage and you just black out and you look at the clock, you got another 20 minutes.
That's right. That's brutal. We have you booked for an hour and a half. And then 30 minutes later, like, I don't know what to do.
Exactly.
But the beauty of what we do here is there's always something that wants to float forward and get played out.
What wants to flow next?
No.
Well, to be able to meet the moment with the stillness that we began the show with, tapped into the stillness, without responding to the conditioning that we have that says we have to fill every moment and we have to be on top of every moment. It's an extra challenge when you are co-hosting a radio show.
It is.
Because
but it applies.
It still applies, but
totally.
It puts me more in touch with the commitment that I have to buying in to that voice that says you got to know what you're doing, you got to be in charge, you got to be on top of it, you got to be out in front of every single moment. So it is a delicious exercise and a laboratory of flow and of ease and flow itself. To be willing, even in such a public venue as being on the radio, to say, okay, well, what happens when we come to this sweet stillness? And there isn't necessarily a sense of, well, we have this segment planned, and we have this segment planned, and we have this segment planned.
We don't do that.
What arises spontaneously?
Yeah. Well, what has arisen spontaneously as we have come to the end of the show?
We have?
Yeah.
Well, God, that's so disappointing now.
Yeah. But just to complete this thought, whenever we have a moment where I lose track of time, because I do have the observer for time, because I'm the guy that looks over at the producer, because I have the direct eye line and whatever. But whenever I lose it and I listen back to the show, I really enjoy it. So I like losing track of time. I mean, the part of me that wants to control everything doesn't, but the part of me that recognizes sometimes that's a good idea. Just let go of time and see what happens. And someone will remind us, hey, you need to stop talking, which we are getting right now.
Well, I look out I don't see that, but I look out the window and I see the folks from the next show standing there, noses pressed to the glass, saying, we need to get in there, we need to get in there, get
All
out.
right.
So
So
we
for those
want to
of
thank
you-
everyone for listening in. We are always grateful. We always appreciate it. It's been some time since we reminded you that we do have a Facebook page, and we love to be loved. So please like us and
And keep tuning in.
tune in. We'll see you again next time.